Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome, and thank you so much for joining us here today at this virtual AI Leadership Forum from the High-Tech Campus in Eindhoven. My name is Remy Gillier. I'm an author, public speaker and a moderator, and my job today is to guide you through today's program. Today is a very festive day, as it is the official opening of the AI Innovation Center here at the High-Tech Campus. And the AI Innovation Center is not only an incubator and an accelerator, it is a way to accelerate the applications and projects by bringing together the regional ecosystem. By facilitating not only this amazing venue where we are standing here today, but also by sharing knowledge like today's program. Our goal for today's program is very simple. We want to demystify AI, so you can get a better understanding what the technology is and what it can do in practice. So you yourself can hopefully adapt AI in your business and innovations. We're very pleased. We found some of the brightest minds from around here to share their knowledge and stories about the practical use cases of AI. We will start today by some opening remarks from the Dutch AI Coalition, but also from the AI Innovation Center to celebrate this official opening. We will hear keynotes from no other than Philips, NXP, ASML and Signify. In between talks we have a quick break for you and we will play an AI-powered game together, which will be very fun. And around 12 o'clock we will round up the show by a panel discussion where your questions to the speakers today will be answered. So if you have any questions to one of our guests today, please type them in the chat window. You can do that during their talks, and the team of the High-Tech Campus will write them all down, and the most pressing issues we will discuss here in the pit in the panel discussion around 12 o'clock. And we know your time is valuable, so without further ado, let's start today's program. Our first and very honored guest is the coalition manager of the Dutch AI Coalition, the all-encompassing organization that supports and accelerates the AI ecosystem in the Netherlands. He works around the clock to kickstart their grand ambitions, and with results as the government just signed off on a new, fresh round of funding. What their goals are and how they incorporate with those of the AI Innovation Center, he will share with you today. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so happy he is here. Kees van der Klauw.
Thank you, Remy. Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here in a place where it's all happening. AI is happening, and being live in an environment where people start working together on AI is extremely important for the success of the program. Yeah? We have seen AI coming up already 30 years ago. I recall when I was still a student, which is longer than 30 years ago, that people were already working on AI, and they were still hampered by computing power, by a lack of data. So the applications were very, very limited. But things have changed. We have almost indefinite computing power. We have lots of data, Internet of Things. So plenty of opportunities to start working. The scientists remind me that AI is still in the early phase, but it's already good enough to start working with AI. And that's why I'm so happy with the opening of this lab, where people work together on AI to make a difference. So there is a sense of urgency. You cannot postpone. We have seen already large companies in the United States, China, stepping up, and they have a tremendous head start already by working on AI for several years. It has been part of the strategy. Yeah. Europe, you could say, is late, but we have a second chance, and I think we have a very strong second chance to focus on responsible AI, human-centric AI. This is not just a statement, it can become a brand. But it's not a matter of having legislation that will protect people. It's also about adopting that legislation and make hell of a lot of good applications that are human-centric. Yeah? So it won't protect us, it's a stimulus to work on AI applications in every sector that makes sense. And it is about every sector. AI is not for the computer sector, AI is not for ICT. ICT is for farming, ICT is for healthcare, for logistics, many subjects. Every sector will be affected by AI, and it can be really a driver for business success if you start early enough. But there are many common interests. You could say, well, we start as an individual company, but there are so many aspects which are common to all sectors and where you cannot even differentiate. So why would you compete on aspects that are common? And this is also why I'm so happy with this lab, where people work together. In the National AI Coalition, the Netherlands AI Coalition, we have for that purpose horizontal working groups. Yeah? We have identified 5 common themes that we can work together on regardless of the application area. We have 13 application areas, and I already mentioned a few, but we also have the built environment, we have the public sector, many. Yeah? But they all have in common that they're looking for talent, they're looking for knowledge, they're looking for ways to share data in a good way, in a protective way, in a privacy respecting way. They're also looking at what are the legislative frameworks. Yeah? What rules are there? And why would you invent yourself what the ruling should be? It's better to work with public authorities to jointly develop these rules and interpret those rules. And it's not a standard for the next 20 years. Every year we will have to learn and re-educate people and find out together what are the best frameworks. And that's, for instance, our working group on human-centric AI. Yeah? They look at social aspects, they look at legal aspects, etc. Talent, I already mentioned it. How are we going to educate people, not only the experts, but also people that work in a professional environment, you could say the average people, because they're going to work with AI sooner than they think. Yeah? You cannot postpone until retirement. Even I cannot postpone until my retirement. It's happening now. Yeah? And last but not least, new business in startups and scale-ups. They have a common challenge, how to get access to structural data, how to find partners in domains, yeah, and how to get growth capital. Starting capital is easier, but growth capital is a common challenge. Those are the horizontal aspects of the National AI Coalition. And I'm very happy that within 1.5 years, we have more than 450 parties joining and more than 1,500 people working together, basically virtually in cyberspace, but very effective on those subjects. And this has been credited by the national government. We've received a grant, and it was made public 1.5 weeks ago on the Friday. We've received a grant of 276 million euros. That is an awful lot of money, but it's actually an acknowledgement of the importance of AI for the Netherlands in the European context. Still many things to arrange, for instance, the boundary conditions, the priorities, etc. So don't start calling me now or don't send me your bank number. It will become clear over the coming months. But actually it's a recognition of the collaboration that we have created in the Netherlands AI Coalition. Yeah. And with that, I would like to give the floor to the people that really matter in this bright, nice environment, the people that work on AI. Thank you very much.
Yes, Kees, thank you so much for your opening remarks. And too bad, I was going to send you a tikkie, but we'll deal with that later. And we'll see you again at the panel discussion at 12 o'clock. So very looking forward to discussing some topics on AI with you. And if you have any questions for Kees about the AI Coalition or their ambitions, please leave them in the chat window. You can do that now. And we will summarize all those questions at the panel discussion later on. Our next guest on stage is not only the driving force, but also the mental godfather behind the AI Innovation Center. So without his vision, we wouldn't have been here today. He will elaborate on the AI Innovation Center's why, its mission, its vision, the role of the AI Leadership Forum, and its opportunities it will bring for you and your company. Today, but also in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, Paul van der Son.
Thank you very much, Remy, for your introduction. So what I want to do today is explain you a little bit more on what this AI Innovation Center is all about. You might have heard it on social media, this collaboration between these 5 companies in this region. And our main goal is basically to industrialize AI. That's the mission that we composed together with the 5 of us. And the reason behind that is that companies here on campus, but also in the region, indicate that AI and all data-related technologies are the most important to apply in the next 5 to 10 years. And we as HealthTech Campus, we thought we should do something about that. That's why we teamed up with Philips, ASML, Signify and NXP and came up with this concept of the AI Innovation Center. So our mission to industrialize AI, and that comes with a lot of challenges, as Kees already mentioned in the previous talk. And we identified basically 3 big needs that companies have when it comes to the adoption and the application of AI, that they have to adopt in order to become successful with this relative new technology for a lot of companies. So it all starts, of course, with the fundamental level of knowledge that is available in companies and with people. So that level of knowledge is way too low. And we, as a cluster of companies, want to do something about that. And in the AI Innovation Center, we want to start hosting events and also professional education together with partners to raise the level of knowledge on this technology and also on the capability side. So what can you actually do with it? The second one is that companies really need an ecosystem, an organized ecosystem and a partner ecosystem in order to develop new applications with AI. And in order to do so, we are working on partnerships together with research institutes, educational institutes, think of the Technical University, IMEC, but all kind of other relevant partners in the ecosystem to make it work. And then the third one is that in the end, it's all about adoption, right? So you can learn a lot about it, but as long as you are not doing something with it, you're still going nowhere. So when we have this talent, we have this ecosystem and infrastructure, then in the end, you're going to develop these new applications and you're going to adopt AI in your company. And that's what we want to drive here in the AI Innovation Center with all these companies, with an inclusive community of people from all kind of angles in this field. And that's also the reason that we really want to put the AI Leadership Forum in the heart of this center. And that's where you come in as a professional in this region and as a driven person with ambitions with AI. So what is this Leadership Forum all about? So the Leadership Forum is basically our organized community that we want to set up to create the highest possible relevance of the AI Innovation Center for the industry. So we want to create a community organized on several topics by the industry for the industry. So we organize these communities with leaders and members of the community, and in the next slide I will go through that, what it means organization-wise. So we have circles, as we call them, on subtopics that are driven by people from the community, and you can be part of this basically. So this is what that looks like. We want circles on subtopics that make sense to people, and we want specialists in this field, but also ambitious professionals that want to develop their leadership skills to become part of these circles and drive the agenda of the AI Innovation Center. So here on this slide you see a few examples of what these circles could be like. So think of a sub-technology like machine learning or deep learning, but also on things like startups or education or the events calendar, etc. So we want to really put you in the center of this AI Innovation Center and define the program that we run here. So in order to do so, here's the first call to action of today. If you are interested in setting the agenda for AI in this region and in this AI Innovation Center, see the link in the chat. It's coming now, and you can register here and apply for or subscribe for a place in one of these circles. And what I mentioned is that industry input is really vital to us. It's our lifeblood. We do this for industry and we want to make it by industry. So therefore we also want to already start with generating some data. So I invite you to go to menti.com, fill in this code and answer 2 questions for us. So the first one, and that's the most important one and the biggest challenge, or the biggest question actually, what is holding you back at this moment from applying AI in your company? It's a really open question and you can give 5 answers and we're really curious because we really want to know what's top of mind with you in order to start applying AI. So let's take some time for that. Maybe we can see the results also on the screen. All right. Remy, can you give a brief summary of it? I cannot read it properly.
Definitely. There are a lot of questions or a lot of answers coming in. And knowledge seems to be the biggest one standing out. Some people have nothing holding them back, which is good, which is also a good thing, of course. But also access to data, funding is a big one. But also the quality of data. We all know that AI is powered by data, and lots of companies have data, but not always the highest quality of data. So that's a big gap. But also privacy, maturity, and cultural resistance. I like that one.
We have a talk about that later today. So that's also a good point. All right. So this makes sense. Some familiar topics I hear, but also some relatively new ones. So also, if you have something to add on this as a viewer, feel free to put your questions in the chat for the keynotes of today, and we can discuss during the round table at the end. But for now, let's go to question 2. What topics should we as AI Innovation Center address in the circles? So I did some suggestions in one of the previous slides on, for example, sub-technologies, but it could also be application areas or whatever. What are your thoughts about this? What topics should we address in these circles?
Shall I elaborate again?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
There are, again, some answers flowing in. The topic is diversity in AI. Maybe we can comment on that in a bit. Privacy, customer benefits, the X-industry best practices, so the best practices. Someone is using some profound words, so we have some people with with some who are missing the office humor apparently in the audience. Security, business strategy, deep learning, as I saw on your slide as well. Revenue and costs, privacy protection, co-creation, and also let's see. Let me name one more. The feasibility. That's into explainability. Explainability is also very important.
Very important topic. Yeah.
How do we explain why how all these smart algorithms get to a specific answer?
Yeah. So what we do today is really make a start in answering all these kind of challenges and questions with the next 5 keynotes that we have for you today. So we will capture all this input from you today, and at the end you will also get the call to action to come up with your feedback about today's program, what we should do in the future to address these kind of questions. And then for now I will leave it till here.
Very good, very good. Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much for your introduction, and we'll see you also at the round table here afterwards. So if you have any questions for Paul, or if you want to share your insights in what the AI Innovation Center can become, please leave them in the comments, and we can discuss them later on. Our first keynote of today comes from the technical director of NXP, another amazing company, which tagline is "Secure Connections for a Smarter World." He will tell us about the enablement of pervasive AI, or in layman terms, how AI will make our daily lives even smarter. Ladies and gentlemen, Gerardo, Daalderop.
Thank you very much. Good morning all. So pervasive AI, and basically what I want to say is AI will end up in all the products that you and I use, and that's the edge. And we as NXP are an enabling company. We provide enabling technologies to enable this trend in the end products. So this is about the end value that you and I will perceive in our daily use. So the goal of this presentation really is an overview of the activities that we as NXP take in this area, and you can see what we can bring to the table in this high-tech campus AI forum and AI center. And so we envisage, the vision that we have is we envisage a world where products become smarter, they become anticipatory on what you would like that the product is going to do for you. It will provide extraordinary convenience to you, and it is a seamless part of your world as you would like to have it. That's the vision that we have, and we are going to enable that through enabling technology, and AI will play a key role in achieving that. So NXP as a company, we are a semiconductor company. 30% of our employees are in research and development, and roughly half of our turnover is in automotive, and the other half is in the IoT technologies. And these things together form our business, and there is a crossover of the technologies of the day-to-day products all the way into automotive, which is kind of the ultimate edge product, as I will show you later. And basically, we are funded by a very strong growth in the semiconductor market, where in 20 years' time there is a factor of 3 growth in the turnover. And that's essential because that's the trend by which the technology can be made cheap, small, low power, and pervasive. And what is the next opportunity? Because there will be a next growth wave again, it's in the edge. It's in the end products that you and I use. So you see that explained here as well. There was a time where the mainframe computing, that was really where the attention was on the computing power. Then on the mini computers that we all have in our homes. Then personal computers and the smartphones. And the next one is in all the little devices. And this AI, these little devices, they need to become smart. So they need to have the data to then analyze through a machine learning process. And then that accumulated know-how and learnings is put into the edge device. And that is the next trend in edge computing. So this growth that you saw on the previous sheet, you see here a couple of the numbers, how that is built up to really show it is happening, it will be happening big time through all kinds of devices and a lot of technology in it. So the tags that you use to identify your personal belongings, to enter buildings, there will be 60 billion of those tags around in the coming time. There will be lots of cars with a lot of high-end semiconductors, and that's, as I said, the ultimate edge computer. So here you see some of the underpinning in the numbers of how many edge devices there will be. And there is, the AI right now is more executed in the cloud. But what it will be in your little device. And why is that so? Well, by putting the AI in your device, you can become really real time with very small latencies. And that's a very good user convenience, what it will give to you. It will reduce the traffic over the networks, so that basically what that causes is it is very energy efficient and also very cost effective. If you realize that local compute and local communication is a factor 10 to 100 more power efficient than if you carry all the data towards central clouds. So the network costs, really the cost to deploy the solution, also become much smaller, and it's helped by the trend of semiconductors to becoming cheaper. So really all these trends come together that the smartness gets into the end products. And what you should realize is that because the intelligence gets into the end products, you can keep all the raw data is in the end product, and only the semantic data are transferred to the cloud. So really what that helps is it can help to ensure privacy. By being more local, you can enhance the security properties because the surface by which attacks can take place gets much smaller. So really in terms of safety and security, this trend towards intelligence in the edge really has a lot of benefits as well. And the last point is, in the edge device, you have the intelligence, by diagnostics, by energy management of your device, by object detection and classification, and also special neural networks that basically when you take an action with your device, the neural network that you imposed as a supplier in the product early on, you see that your neural network is doing something different than actual usage by the user. The difference of that tells you as a supplier something, hey, my neural network is not quite correct. That data can be transferred to the cloud to enhance your neural network. So what this is doing for you is you don't have to invent beforehand and label all the data in the central cloud. By the actual usage and the comparison with what the neural network inside the device is predicting, that is effectively the labeling, and that is how you can improve your product. So really, local intelligence will bring a huge amount of benefits. What you see here is basically the compute workload for really quite an amount of applications. On a horizontal scale, there's the compute workload on a logarithmic scale. And you see the various, let's say, industrial markets and the applications. So really, putting intelligence in the end products require different demands, from very low compute demands to huge compute demands, as you can see in the right top corner, where you see the highly automated driving application. So billions of products, they require optimization towards many different requirements. So in the cloud compute, it's big data centers. They are energy hungry, huge memories. But in the edge devices, they have to be very low power. They have to be very real time. They have to be very secure. And they can have the need to be very safe. So lots of different requirements for the various market segments. And these requirements have to be fulfilled simultaneously. And for these end products, you have functionality in the device to sense what is going on, to then reason what is happening in it. We call that the think action. And then to activate, to do the thing that you want to do as a user, or to do it for you. So really these edge devices contain a huge amount of technology, all optimized in a small device and fulfilling a multitude of requirements. So you can see here how much comes together in a small device and how much know-how needs to be packed in there, so you can understand that the opportunity is huge. The ultimate edge device you can consider to be the car, for example, which is 50% of our market size. They sense with cameras, with radar to perform the environment perception. They have domains in which the different parts they have domains for the controlling the car, for the entertainment. They connect to provide services to you, for example, the traffic condition. So really, many technologies come together in different domains, and the different domains themselves are edges as well. So you could call this the ultimate edge device. But the technologies, as you can see, are similar as that you find in the mobile phones, in the Fitbits, etc. So there is a huge variety in markets. There's a huge variety in let's say, in the data that are to be dealt with. And they need to be deployed on the edge devices. And for the edge devices, there are very many different neural network technologies and AI technologies. And all of this you have to cope with together. This trend to the edge, it is really happening. So on the horizontal axis, you see here basically the AI compute performance over time. And this is all, and you see it slowly increasing. What recently is happening is it's optimized towards the edge in the last years, where you see the same compute environment that you used to have on the PC and in the cloud, you see it now folded into your embedded device. Same performance, but in your little device. This is the trend of the last few years, and this will accelerate. So remember, there are all these different devices with all these requirements. And then we have a huge amount of AI technologies, AI frameworks that you train in the cloud, and then you have to bring towards your portable device. And in your portable device, to make that work, that is not easy. It's a skill in itself. And frankly, that's still a bit of a bottleneck to make that work. But that together is the challenge that we are having, and that's the know-how that exists in this region, and that exists amongst others with the parties that are here on around the table. So, if you realize that in the past we devised intelligence by thinking very hard, how do I recognize an object? What is a car? Well, maybe from the back, when you look at a car, you say, okay, it's something square with 2 or 3 red thingies in it, the lights, the braking lights, for example, and 2 shadows at the bottom. Those are the wheels. And you modeled your image of what a car is. You put that into a big statistical machine to compare your actual vision of what statistically was seen as a car. And then you said, okay, this is a car, and that is called machine learning. Now with AI, you don't have to think so hard of all these features that make up an object. The neural network itself finds out through training what is a car. So we have eliminated one step in our thought process, thinking very hard what makes up a car by a computer and by neural networks. But we still design the neural networks by ourselves. And you can now ask yourself, hey, we are now designing neural networks, but isn't it true that maybe AI can devise better neural networks than that we do ourselves? And the answer is, that is the case. What you see here on the horizontal axis, you see on the horizontal axis the number of compute calculations, and on the vertical axis you see the quality of image classification. And so if you are in, if you are in the left top corner, you have the least compute power, and in the top corner you have the best accuracy. And these are manually designed neural networks. And what you see in the last few years, the neural networks that are designed by artificial intelligence, they are the best. They have the lowest compute power and the highest accuracy. So actually, where the first step was, we think about what makes up an object, we design the features, we do a statistical match, and we think what an object is. We replace that by neural networks that we manually design, but now we see neural networks, the best neural networks are also designed by artificial intelligence. So the next step, remember that we said these edge nodes, they have very many different requirements with regards to power, with respect to latency time, or let's say the response time, with respect to how small the solution can be and how cost effective it shall be. And you shall manage all these requirements at the same time. And now you also have to devise a neural network. So the next step that we are taking as NXP, we are able to develop very low power, very efficient solutions. We are developing very efficient neural networks through artificial intelligence. What we now do as a next step is, in the development of neural networks, we also take these properties of the end node into account with respect to power, or with respect to compute, or with respect to size. And we optimize the neural network not only for its task performance, but also for the properties of this end node. So the next step is that more and more of the end product is basically developed by AI in one shot. So I discussed the trends towards the end products that you and I are using. And I showed how NXP is taking step for step, is going step for step further in unlocking the potential of these smart edge nodes. And what is important then, that you basically develop very scalable solutions from smaller nodes to larger nodes, because otherwise the development effort cannot be sustained. You will need to reuse your software and hardware infrastructure across all these products. You provide one single software framework to develop all of this, and you reuse your knowledge on critical competences such as safety, security, and quality. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Gerardo, we have a few minutes, so I can ask you a few questions.
Yes.
You mentioned anticipatory technology. I was very enthusiastic about it because I can't even get my Siri to work. So the idea of these devices that know ahead of time what you want.
Yeah.
When are we going to see this?
Yeah, it is one of the challenges, but it's happening at various places already, although that's the good thing, you may not even notice it. For example, a car can anticipate, in automotive technology, we are developing networks to anticipate what the other participants in the traffic are going to do. So we are going to predict what movements they will be making, what object they are. Is it a pedestrian? Is it a cyclist? Is it a vehicle? And what movement they are going to make. By that anticipation, we can then, in our own car, we can say, hey, this will be a dangerous situation, or this is how we can circumvent that dangerous situation, and we can adapt our driving pattern in the car.
And did this promise that there are so many chips and so many edge devices in the upcoming years? Let's take a quick look into the future, 2050. Will there be any device left that doesn't have a chip in it, you reckon? Any object?
Well, yeah, that's a very good point, because you could even say that tables will be equipped with wireless chargers, etc., etc. So the question is, what makes things easy and convenient for you as a user? I think there will be stuff that doesn't have a chip in it, obviously. But the technology becomes very cheap. You have to apply it. And when you are very user-centric and application-centric as a company, you will find use to make things easy. The cost will be not prohibitive anymore, and that's how you then can differentiate to provide added value. So I think ICs will become very, very, a chip, very, very pervasive indeed.
Final question. Many companies, many autonomous companies who are investing in autonomous vehicles get loads of funding, but mostly come from the US or China. Even Domino's launched a small little cart last week to deliver pizzas in an autonomous vehicle. So big things go on. Is there an opportunity for companies in Europe or even the Netherlands to also invest in autonomous driving?
Yes, this whole trend towards the edge node, to little embedded devices, where you optimize towards all the requirements that I mentioned: safety, security, low power, small form factor. European companies are very good in balancing all these requirements. It's not big compute in the cloud, it's these little devices really tailored to the diverse markets that Europe is very good at in balancing these requirements. So it's the opportunity for Europe to step into this world, because it's very different from the cloud world that right now has been driving the trend, but it's now applying it towards the day-to-day products, which is where the opportunity is and that we can deliver. And as Europe, we are much more sensitive, let's say, to safety and security and privacy aspects. We are much more sensitive to that. And that can be facilitated by this trend towards small embedded devices. So it's the opportunity for Europe to step in, I would say.
Exciting future. Gerardo, thank you so much, and we'll see you later on here at the round table. And I'll turn around so I can see our participants who are watching again, because it's time for our second keynote. And when we introduce a keynote, we're not kidding around, as he works one of the world's successful high-tech companies, ASML. They're not only a world leader in making amazing machines that power most of our technology today, but they're also a true leader in AI. And he will share a very important lessons about the pitfalls of working with AI, which he calls the AI demon. That sounds scary, right? Let's find out. Ladies and gentlemen, Arnaud Hubaux.
Thank you for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. When I was preparing this presentation, I asked a few leaders around me, do you invest in AI and why? And surprisingly, I got replies that were like, yeah, we don't really know, we are doubting, maybe we should not. And one of them put it very nicely. He said, you know, it's like I have this small demon on my shoulder. He's whispering in my ears to just do it because everyone is doing it. And he's showing me paper from strategic consulting firms, showing me gigantic revenue forecast. If you put all the AI revenues together, you're going to end up in trillions of new value that is being generated. And he told me, and I asked my friends. And my friends tell me, I invest in AI, I've not seen any return yet. And when I think about myself, I'm like, yeah, I don't even know what are the risks of those investments. And then he turned around and said, hey, how do you decide and how do you manage the risks? And I figured this is a great question, and this is a question I would like to answer today, at least give you my opinion there. So if I take it from the point of view of ASML, I always start thinking about my end customers. And our end customers, they can dream really big. They want to explore space and send rovers to Mars. Or they dream really, really, really small, where they want to make nanobots that will cure cancer. Or they want to solve mobility issues. They all have different dreams. But they have one thing in common. They will need chips. And those chips are made by machines that ASML is manufacturing, like this one, this lithography scanner. So if you look at this machine, the linking pin between the dream and our system is that silicon wafer. And our machines, they turn the chip designs into physical chips that are produced on those silicon wafers. Now, how is the industry spinning there? That's very interesting. Chip manufacturers, they optimize for as many as possible good chips per day. So the device manufacturers can have as many good devices per day. The way to make it happen is not just to have good chips, it's actually to have affordable chips, affordable devices. And this is where Moore's law kicks in. Moore's law is not only about having more power and doubling the power every year, it's also making it half as cheap. So once you have your manufacturers of devices producing more and new devices, it also requires new chip designs, which requires the chip manufacturers to keep on producing new types of machines. And this is how the whole industry is spinning. This is the growth engine of the industry. And then when you have this, of course, it generates a new R&D budget, which companies like ASML can invest in focusing on their core business, which is improving litho performance. So the lithography is the steps produced by our scanners. And this is where this thinking about AI starts, because this is our leverage on the industry flywheel. And when you know that part, you can, from my perspective, focus on three things. You can use AI to reduce your costs, the cost of your machines, the cost for ASML, but also the cost of ownership for the customers. Reduce your time to market, and create new types of values. So let me give you some examples there. The first example is how do you improve defect detections in microchips? If you look at the picture, the upper one in the orange part, you see it's very grainy. So it's difficult to see there if a spot is an issue with the chip or just noise in the image. But by using deep learning technologies, you can actually enhance the quality of that picture to detect more defects here, for instance, ramping up to 93% defect rate detection. Another very interesting example is optimizing the mask. The mask is basically the layer that contains the design of a chip, and you have many of those masks. when you don't put your design properly on the mask, it doesn't get exposed properly on the wafer. So if you look at the grayscale picture in the before part, you see in the middle there is this kind of necking. It looks a bit like a bean that you're making. This is not what you want. What you want is a straight line. And there AI can help you again to put those assist features in the mask so that when light is shot at it, the end result is this nice straight line. Another very typical example is defect detection. Defect detection is when you are manufacturing parts like these. They, for instance, have special types of coating. And the coating must have very, very specific properties. Otherwise, the machine doesn't work. And you can use their AI techniques to segment images of those parts and classify them so that you know if there are defects, or when the part comes back from the field, for instance, and you want to run forensics analysis, you can use AI to zoom in on the areas that were damaged and then tell you why they were damaged. So this is a way for us, for instance, to reduce our costs, because then qualification of parts goes faster, and also we just spend less engineering resources on those. These are just a few examples that prove you, yes, AI can bring value. However, and this is where the AI demon kicks in, this guy is very nasty. His only purpose in life is to make you fail and steal your business. And it does it in 3 very simple ways. First, it makes sure that you build solutions that are unexplainable. What does it mean? If you look at ML literature, it is very sound. It is based on mathematics, so this is perfectly explainable. The issue is that the model, they will just learn from the input you give them and try to predict some form of output. And what they do is basically try to figure out a good correlation between the input and the output. And as we all know, correlation is not causation. So when it tells you, for instance, that your machine is not behaving correctly, it just tells you it correlates with these parameters. But it doesn't mean that those parameters are actually the cause of the issue. And that's the issue. On the very short term, when you go to a customer and you show them your solution and it shows, look, it is very good at flagging when things don't go well. That's right. Then the next question you get from the customer is, tell me why. And then you reply, yeah, because the model knows. Yeah, this is not very satisfactory, right? You're an equipment vendor, so you should be able to explain how it behaves. So if you can't do it, you don't get your customer trust. On midterm, if you deploy your solutions, your support team will start using it. And if the machine starts sending alarms, oh, this machine is not performing well, go fix. Okay, they will take the alarm, they will go to the machine, and then what? It's broken. Tell me where I should be looking to detect the issue. But if you don't have explainability, you don't get the support your teams actually need, so they don't trust it. And last but not least, if you can't explain when the machine is performing well or not, you cannot improve its design. And this is the most fundamental issue, because if you do not understand what is causing the issue, you can't fix your design, so you can't innovate anymore. And this is a business killer. The second element is context dependence. Very easy with AI. You are in your lab, you are doing your experiments, the team gets super excited because they hit the accuracy number they were dreaming of. Then you go to your first customer. And with the system, you ship your best engineer. And this guy surely knows how to fix it. So he will tweak it, he will make it work, he will leave the customer side. Yeah, guys, I made it. Everyone is happy. And then you deploy worldwide. And it doesn't work. And usually it doesn't work because your model is sensitive to small variations where you deploy it. But you didn't think about it up front because you wanted to train everything in-house and then deploy. And there you fail. And the last one is the one we usually miss. It's a commodity. Machine learning is a commodity. AI is a commodity. And it's very easy to believe otherwise, because when you make a model, you are very happy, because by applying machine learning, what took your engineers maybe 2, 3, 4 months to figure out, you can do in a week. So you get all juiced up and say, hey guys, we have something good here. Look, we just spent a fraction of the money, a fraction of the time, and then we have a great product. So you go to market with it. The issue is that everyone can do it as well. A guy just out of university with a master's degree in computer science or mathematics, if you give him the data, he will do it. Your customers can do it. Your competitors can do it. So you can be sure that 6 months after you have released your first product, everyone can copy it. So if you build your business value on the machine learning model, you're killing your own business. So if you read it like this, AI is providing you an explainable, context-dependent commodity. It doesn't sound too good, right? So why should I put money in that thing? Right? This is a question that everyone would ask. So let me show you how you can actually go around those topics and actually, next to having a great use case, delivering sustainable innovations with AI. So let's assume you want to build a system that once the machine has produced a lot, containing multiple wafers, you want to tell the customer manufacturing execution system if everything went well. There are 4 basic steps your system can go through. You get the data coming from the system, so all the sensor readings, for instance. From there, you can calculate features, so typically physical models that give more meaning to this raw data they get. Then you can input those features into a machine learning model that will, for instance, predict okay or not okay. The output of that model can then go into a system that will tell you, well, the system is not okay because A, B, or C, or with certain likelihood of those being the root causes. And the last step is you're looking for a recurrence pattern. Is it just a one-off? Or is it an issue that is recurring? Because if it's a one-off, bad stochastic, sorry, it won't happen again. But if it is recurring, you want to maybe schedule some maintenance on that system. So you see here we have 2 colors, the blue boxes and the green boxes. The blue boxes, this is your domain knowledge. This is the unique thing you're bringing to market. The green boxes, everyone has access to. So don't bet on them. If you have to put money and time into something, it's in the blue boxes. It's in the physical features and the symptom analysis. So there you cover the ability to explain what is going on and accept the fact that it's a commodity because it is built in your design. The last part is the context-specific element. Variations in the process occur, and you know it, and you should be aware of it, especially if you're in the manufacturing world where things drift. And drift is a totally normal behavior. So when you deploy the application, you have to make sure that next to your real-time prediction, you're also building some autonomous retraining system. So basically, the AI can monitor itself, knows when to retrain to remain accurate through time. And to do that, it's also pretty simple. You just have to put a mechanism where you monitor a number of indicators that indicate if your performance is acceptable or not. If not, assemble the training set, apply the machine learning on it. So you can train one or multiple models if you want to be safe and be able to compare them, rank them by performance, and then serve the best performing one. So serving it means you just redeploy in the new real-time prediction tools you have. And to make it specific, this is also a critical point to be successful, is make sure you build that feedback loop to the customer environment. Because in this case, eventually the customer is able to tell you if the result is okay or not okay. You can think about it as much as you want as a manufacturer. The end customer decides if the result is acceptable or not. So you have to factor it in your model. So make sure that, in our case, for instance, the wafers get inspected, we get the results of the inspection from the customer, and they tell us if the quality is good or not. So it means that to be successful, machine learning needs good data. You will read it everywhere. It also needs even better models. And here that would specifically be the blue box, the feature models. I will give you an example there. Because if you don't have it, first, you don't have a business case for your own company, and you will have all kind of noise. And this is a quote that we got from our customers. They said, we tried the same approach, but we failed, and they put lots of efforts, lots of resources in it. We failed because we don't have those physical models. These are the things that make the model reliable on the long run. So what kind of features are we talking about? How is domain-specific knowledge playing a role there? Let's assume a very simple problem. You want to predict the gray dots. Just want a time series, and you want to base on the time, where is the gray dot going to be? Approach 1, data-driven. You just look at all the historical data you have. So you look at the other colored lines you see there, and from the data you have, use your preferred regression model on time series and try to predict the gray dots. Approach number one. Approach number two, you say, I actually know the machine because I'm building it myself. So let's not be lazy and just give it to a machine learning model and let it figure out, but try to put some thinking into it. So in our case, for instance, I want to predict the exact same gray dot. But I know that the dot is about a part in my machine called a reticle that contains a pattern that will be exposed on a chip. And that reticle is exposed with light so that it can be exposed on the silicon wafer. And you know that by shooting light at that thing, it will heat up and it will deform. But the thing is that because you manufacture it, you kind of know what kind of deformation will be triggered based on the usage of that system. So the lines you see there, the blue and the orange lines, are heating and cooling curves of that system. So if you know the heating and the cooling curves, the gray dots, they kind of come naturally. You don't need any data to predict it. And this is how you basically, by stepping away from just easy and just go straight to the data, in your system, you build it, your domain knowledge, to make it more robust. Because the physics you know, you don't depend on the data set, you don't depend on the quantity or the quality of the data. And that's a sure way of being successful and securing that your domain knowledge is used at its best. So I showed you 3 ways to basically get rid of this AI demon and still be successful. Make the model explainable, make it context specific, so accept that there will be variations and you're ready to handle them. And the last part, maybe surprisingly, is accept that it's a commodity. If right now I had to ask you, okay, I'm here in Eindhoven and I want to go to Amsterdam. What do? I hire a crew of engineers and we build a car together, or I call a cab. Guess which one is cheaper and faster? And this is exactly what you see now happening with AI. People hire big teams of engineers with PhDs to try to build those models themselves. But in most cases, it's not necessary. If you use out-of-the-box API provided by cloud vendors or open source libraries, you already go a very long way. And actually, you realize by using those techniques that eventually what makes a difference is not the machine learning part, but the quality of your data and the quality of your models. So coming back to the question of how do you decide to invest, and then what are the risks and how do you manage them? Deciding is relatively easy. If you understand your industry, if you understand the leverage you need to make that engine grow and spin as fast as possible, focus on those use cases. And in those use cases, identify those where AI can make a difference. Once you have identified those, make sure you build a solution that is explainable and context specific. And in all your business models, assume that everyone has access to the exact same machine learning models as you. Don't make it a unique differentiator. Your unique differentiators is what will make you successful, and it's not going to be AI. Thank you.
Yes, Arnaud, thank you so much for your insights on how you're working with AI and what are some of the pitfalls, which are very important. 2 questions. First of all, you mentioned that you need to retrain your models to keep them fresh, to keep them updated with data. People starting out with AI often think that, oh, wow, we're starting with machine learning and our machines get smarter by the day. But that's often not the case.
If you don't build it in, no. Usually you think, okay, I want a data set that is as big as possible. I will throw it in my model, and when I hit the accuracy I want, I deploy it, and we should be good. I think that's a mistake. That's only the start, especially if you're thinking about real sustainable AI. They will be in production for 1, 5, 10 years. And of course, there will be variations. So you have to build in your design the ability to learn from it.
Yeah, I always like the example that there's this big data set, this big language model called GPT-3, which is trained on billions of web pages, but only until December of 2020 or something like that. So the system doesn't know yet that Joe Biden is currently the president of the United States. Yeah. So you really need to build in these self-learning aspects as well. Second and final question, you're the AI guru of the company. And AI is such a hot topic these days. So people from all over read about it in the newspaper or see it on the news. What's the most common question they ask you about AI?
Why the heck is ASML investing in it?
Really?
You guys are physicists. You don't do anything with AI. And in a way, I think they're right. I think we've been successful and are still successful today because we do work really, really hard on the physics, making amazing parts. I think that will always remain. Where AI becomes very interesting is because it is able to tailor and optimize for a very specific context, which physics cannot do or not as easily as AI. So by adding that layer on top of what we do, we can really squeeze even more performance from our systems.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
If you have any questions for Arnaud or any of the other speakers, please leave them in the chat window and we'll write them all down. And the most pressing issues we will discuss in the panel discussion around 12 o'clock. Our next and last keynote before the break comes from the leading company in smart healthcare. And of course, I'm talking about Philips. He will share practical lessons and examples on how Philips is harnessing the power of AI for the benefits of patients and medical staff. Ladies and gentlemen, Jörg, Habetha.
Thank you very much, Remy. I'm really glad to be here. I will indeed talk about AI in Philips, but especially also how we are supporting AI development in the cloud with our Philips HealthSuite platform. You probably know that Philips evolved into a company which is fully focused on healthcare and personal health over the last years. And I'm personally surprised how quick the adoption of AI went and how much AI is currently already used in everything that Philips is doing, from providing deep insights for consumers into their own health to helping professionals in carrying out a better diagnosis and improving their workflows. My personal experience is that in the healthcare space, next to having access to data, it is also especially important to really have deep domain expertise, deep technical expertise when the algorithms, the AI algorithms are being built. And only in that way we can come to solutions that really empower the consumers and empower the patients. And we also, it was also mentioned before, want to come to solutions that adapt to the context in which these professionals and the patients are operating and are also adapting to the workflows that these professionals are using in their day-to-day work. In order to come to superior healthcare solutions and especially AI-enabled solutions, we have realized that we cannot do that alone. We really want to partner with all the stakeholders in the healthcare system, of course, our traditional partners, the hospitals, outpatient care organizations, but even our competitors or pharma companies. We want to gain insights from academia, latest innovations from startup companies. And in the AI space, it is very important to also create a digital ecosystem together with all of these stakeholders in order to combine the data and combine all the insights that all the participants in the healthcare system have. And this is actually the background why we created already several years ago our Philips HealthSuite platform. It is a cloud platform which is able to collect and aggregate data from consumers, but also from medical devices. And it's really built for healthcare. It's really taking away the burden for companies that are developing solutions on top of that platform to deal with the regulatory aspects, the regulatory controls that are needed in order to make their solutions in the end compliant. And we have developed this together with partners, for example, Amazon Web Services, which is a cloud infrastructure provider. And we have developed a platform layer on top of the infrastructure layer, which is realizing a couple of services, software as a service. And it allows other companies, our own businesses, but also our partners and external companies to build their solutions on top of this platform. So it's really an open platform which can host software basically from any other party in that healthcare ecosystem. So the functions that we are supporting are, for example, connecting devices to the cloud. Devices in the home, but also sharing data with the hospital, for example, from the clinical medical records. We also have developed a layer to secure the platform. We have a security management system and have a role-based access control to really make sure that the data is secure and the privacy of the patients and the participants is preserved. Then, of course, the hosting environment is very important to host these third-party applications on top of the platform. And finally, what we will be talking about today in more detail is an area where we are supporting algorithm development and tooling for AI in the cloud. But before I come to that, I want to stress once again, so to say that in the healthcare space, it is really very important to guarantee the security of the data, the privacy of the information. And this is what is our kind of day-to-day business. We are operating this platform also for the clients 24/7. So it's really software as a service, which is always on. And we really make sure that everything is secure. And we have all the required certifications in order to prove that. Coming to AI. So in healthcare, as I said, there are specific requirements for AI. And we have developed our AI part of the platform really purpose-built for healthcare. One of the requirements is, for example, that you want to be able to trace how an algorithm has been developed. So that applies to which data has been used, which version of a library, a code library has been used, etc. And this is something that we want to guarantee with our platform. In addition, we want to also support with services the acquisition of data, for example, to then develop AI algorithms on top of the data. We have, for example, solutions to de-identify data because of privacy reasons. Data has to be given to data scientists in an anonymized fashion. These kind of things are all part of the platform. And because it's running in the cloud, it's very scalable, so we can support development of kind of very small algorithms to very large and very complex problems that need a lot of compute and data storage, and that is, of course, very scalable in the cloud. And finally, because it builds on top of that regulated platform, it is, of course, taking away a lot of the burden of the researcher to actually look into the regulatory controls that come with it. I wanted to give an example how AI development can be carried out with such a platform. So in our case, the data that you see on the left side here is typically coming out of the clinic, from the clinical medical records, the medical devices in the clinic. But it can also come from the users or patient's home, right? It could be sensor data from wearables, could be data from the mobile phone, so-called patient-reported outcomes, where patients respond to how they are doing. And as Philips, we have the advantage that we are very active in these environments. So we are a big player in the hospital, so we have gateways that connect to the electronic medical records in the hospital or to the medical image modalities in the hospital, and we can extract the data from there into the cloud. And similarly, for the home, we have an IoT solution to connect to a large variety of wearable devices and sensor devices in the market. And once the data is in the cloud, as I said, usually it should be checked whether the data scientist is allowed to do AI development with the data, so that is called consent. So the patient has to have agreed that the data is used for these scientific purposes. And then the data should be de-identified. For that, we have a de-identification service which can kind of automate the de-identification process. So if data from an image, for example, is coming in, it can automatically look for the text in the image, and it can automatically remove privacy-sensitive information. We also offer support for pre-processing the data. Typically, you want to clean the data and normalize data. And this is what we can do in a parallelized fashion in a distributed compute cluster. We call it the big data platform. And finally, the data is stored in the cloud. And in the AI space, we are using our clinical data lake store for that. This is a store which does not only store the raw data, but it's also extracting metadata during the storage of the data, during the ingestion of the data. And this metadata can then be used to actually search the data. So as a scientist, you can access the data lake and you can search and build data cohorts for the research and the AI model development. And for the latter, we then offer a couple of tools in the cloud. For example, Philips is, of course, a big player in medical imaging, so we have clinical viewers to annotate, for example, data from medical image data that can then be used as ground truth for the algorithm training. But we also offer AI tooling in order to develop the models and train the models, send training jobs to the cloud, etc. And once the model is ready and is validated on a new data set, the model can also be hosted in the cloud. That is what is referred to here as AI inference. And such a model, which is then kind of always on, can then be called from the operational environment, for example, in the hospital, in order to carry out a certain task, come to diagnostic support, improve a workflow, etc. I would like to give 2 use cases where we are currently applying this. One of them is actually from the region. That's why I wanted to choose this example. It's from the Eindhoven MedTech Innovation Center. This is a consortium of 3 care institutions in the region, Catharina, Maxima, and Kempenhagen, as well as the Technical University in Eindhoven and Philips. And these parties are carrying out joint research in the biomedical and medical field already for many years. And they were looking for a more structured approach in managing their data, and especially being able to combine their data in order to come to new insights. So really an example of this ecosystem. And we have jointly with the consortium conceived a solution where on the one hand, each institution has their own possibility to carry out own research and own AI development. So we're delivering a data lake instance in the cloud for each of the institutions. Each of the institutions goes through that process of de-identifying the data, carrying out model development with the data. But we're also creating, or the consortium will create a foundation, which will be a trusted third party, where data can come together from multiple institutions. And the approach is that the central data lake, so to say, will not store all the data all the time, but the data will be ingested into the central data lake upon request of the data scientist. So data scientist has the possibility to search in a catalog for data, and then they can ask for access to the data with the institution. And if that is granted, the data is going to the central data lake and combined with data from the other institutions. And ultimately, the data then lands in a workspace in the cloud where the researchers can carry out their algorithm development. Last but not least, I would like to give one example where we are using our platform for pharma companies. They typically have the challenge that they want to support their clinical trials, execution of clinical trials, and they're looking for an enterprise platform in order to do that, collect data, and then ultimately also do analytics on the data. And we have used our platform for a large company. Typically, as I said, we are not a solution provider, so we are really a cloud service provider, you could say. And we collaborated with a system integrator that was building that solution for the pharma company. But by using our services and our software, we got the feedback from the pharma company that we could accelerate their go-to-market with that solution by about 2 years, because they could, like in a Lego box, pick our components and build it into a solution that was purpose-built for them and also owned by them. And we are helping them with kind of operating the platform in the cloud. You can, of course, apply this example also to smaller companies, right? So we could also help, for example, startup companies. We are doing it also, startup companies with connecting their devices to the cloud and helping them to get to the market quicker. And that would also be my offer in the AI Innovation Center potential role we could play to act as an accelerator and maybe also as a place where people, but especially also data, can come together in the Innovation Center in a kind of virtual space next to the physical space we are in here today. With that, thank you very much. And back to you, Remy.
Yeah, thank you, Jörg. And how nice of you that you already are thinking about how you can contribute to the AI Innovation Center. That's a very good start of the first day. The interesting thing, of course, about working in AI at Philips, I can imagine, is that the end user don't want to know your solution. They just want a solution. They don't know. They don't want to know what's going on under the hood, basically. So you're building solutions
Yeah, the professionals want to know very well how the solution is built, and even the regulators, right? So like for example, the FDA in the US, they really want to understand how an algorithm is working. So explainability is also there a very important topic, actually.
Yeah, the explainability is an important topic indeed. And what do you think in the future? Philips has always been a hardware company, so you sell a product and maybe some services afterwards. But the data and the data management platform and the AI augmented intelligence, that can become a very big part of the business.
Absolutely, it is already. So the company has really evolved tremendously in that direction. Also, if you look here at the campus, we have our corporate research organization here with hundreds of researchers. And the profile of these researchers has changed significantly over the last 10 years, where we had in the past a lot of hardware-related activities. Nowadays, it's really the minority, and a lot of people are really working on data and solving problems with data and developing database solutions.
So cool, and it's amazing how this company keeps evolving. I can't wait to see where it's heading the next few years. So we'll see you during the roundtable later on. But first, very important, after this shower of knowledge, it is time to put your mind at rest and let it all sink in for a moment. We do that with a 15-minute break. And for those of you who like to be entertained, we have a quick quiz and some AI-powered games for you to play in about 5 minutes or so. So if you like that, you can join us in about 5 minutes. At 11:30 sharp, we will continue with the official program where we will learn from no other than the man with perhaps the best name ever, Gabriel Sierra Chinchilla, on AI at Signify. Have a nice break, and don't forget to take a quick walk around the garden or living room. It's very important to keep healthy. See you in a bit. Yeah, and for those of you ready to join us, for those of you who are ready to join us, we have a very interesting, quick little game for you guys to experience yourself the power of artificial intelligence. And we'll continue the official program in about 5 minutes. So we have a 5-minute break game for you, and it's called Quick Draw. It's created by Google. And we thought it would be fun to play it together, and it works as follow. You have to go into your web browser in a new tab, of course. Otherwise, you'll exit our stream. So you open a new tab and you go to quickdraw.withgoogle.com. And probably our amazing staff are working very hard in the background are also pasting this URL in the chat window, so maybe you can see it over there and you can click on it directly. Otherwise, go into new tab, quickdraw.withgoogle.com, and there you can try out and see. You can see artificial intelligence in practice. It's a very fun little game. It's very addictive as well. You have to, Google says, draw an umbrella or something, and it tries to guess your drawing. And it works with our artificial neural networks, deep learning, so to say. And, this technology tries to mimic somewhat the inner working of our brains with artificial neurons. And fun fact, it was actually the theory behind this was actually thought of in 1943, and a few years later, 1985 or 1958, Frank Rosenblatt created the perceptron, which was also one of the building blocks for this technology. So artificial intelligence isn't per se a new technology, but only in the last few years we have really harnessed it, and especially these neural networks have been rising in popularity since 2010. So only the last few years, and that's of course because you need three elements for AI to work, and that is you need talent, very smart people. We had those back in the early 40s as well, but you also need lots of data, lots of training data, and of course lots of computing power. And those last two we've only seen in the last few years. So if you go to quickdraw.withgoogle.com, you can try out our little game to see how Google, with artificial intelligence, with neural networks, can really guess what you are drawing on screen. It's very fun. Please enjoy yourself with this game for the next 3 minutes or so, and at 11:30 sharp, we'll be back with the program. Yeah, welcome back, and I hope you had a fun time doodling with Quick Draw. And our next guest only needs a short introduction, as he has an already very long name. He will share how Signify is using AI to help customers find, preview and buy the right lighting products for their homes. And we have him remote through teleconferencing because of quarantine rules. But nonetheless, here he is, from Signify, Gabriel Sierra Chinchilla.
Hello everyone, and thank you for the nice introduction, Remy. Yes, good morning. First of all, apologies that I cannot be there with you from the setting. But yes, one of my daughters is in quarantine due to a case of COVID in the school. So to avoid any issues, I'm presenting from home today. To start, I would like to thank the AI team at the HealthSuite campus for organizing this session. I think this is a really great initiative to really stimulate this growth. We are here, in the Eindhoven area, which is, this brain port where a lot of knowledge. So it's very much important to stimulate, AI as well. I also want to extend, thanks to my colleague Nuno Ferreira for extending the invitation to present today. I think it's a great opportunity. So. As stated, I'm Carlos, and I work for Signify. Signify for me stands, for a company that has a long legacy of innovation. A very strong focus on sustainability and customer experience. Something that I'm very proud of. Now, speaking of the customer, today I want to share how we are helping our customers find the right light with AI. But before we get into the presentation, I'd like for you all to visualize something with me. So you got to work with me here. Try to visualize yourselves going into a store, a large store, and then you're finding yourself on the lighting products aisle, where you have one or maybe multiple aisles of different products. And then you're trying to replace a bulb, an old bulb that has broken down, and you cannot find any more the characteristics of this bulb. So basically you're kind of left, guessing and trying to find out how you replace this bulb. So this can be a very cumbersome process for customers. The same thing goes, online. If you're trying to scan for, for a replacement of a bulb, it can be a cumbersome process as well. So our goal actually is to make this experience for our customers easier, a bit more seamless and cumbersome, with the help of AI. So now let me share my screen and share a bit the presentation that I have prepared for you today. Yes, there we are. So it's finding the right light with AI. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce to you Light Finder. It's an innovative mobile app that provides consumers a better digital experience to find, preview, and buy lighting products. And this is really an exciting journey that we have embarked upon very recently. We have launched it recently in the US, and it's a fantastic journey because we're really passionate about solving this particular customer problem. But what is Light Finder? So let me take you through this. With Light Finder, we aim to create value for customers by having 4 primary features in this application. The first one is the light bulb recognition. Second, the live preview. Third is the browse light bulb functionality, so it's a type of a catalog that we have. And fourth is the purchase convenience. So let's dive into the Light Finder features. The first one gets us the most interesting in the context of today's setting, because here's where AI does the magic. Well, I shouldn't call it magic because it's actually the science behind it. So we try to eliminate, that guesswork. So in the example that I was giving you before, when you're trying to search for a product, we want to eliminate this. So the power of AI is actually, and you can see it here from the picture, that once you scan the bulb, the image recognition is really detecting the shape, the fitting, and it does all that cumbersome work for you. So our innovation team has done a fantastic job in developing training this AI engine that we call to be able to really differentiate between different types of lighting products and with a high level of accuracy, recommend actually what the best match is. And that is actually, it cuts down a lot of that process of search to seconds. And that is actually, for me, one of the special things in terms of having, this customer focus on how can we help our customers in this journey and simplify it. And we actually, don't stop there, of course. This is, just a recommendation part, but we also simplify the process of saying, okay, once you have those best match, we have alternatives from non-dimmable LED, dimmable LED, and the smart connected LED. So then you can have also still options, but based on the right match from the bulb that you have. We did not stop there. We also went one step ahead. So yes, we covered, the AI part, but we also introduced something around the topic of augmented reality. Why did we do that? Well, it's simply because we want to also provide additional convenience to consumers when trying to select what the product will look like. Because if the bulb is broken, you perhaps have, that difficulty in envisioning, how light will look in your room. So here in the image that you see here on the left, you can see a bit of differentiation and kind of play around with how light will look from, the convenience of your home. And then you can actually go to the next step of purchasing. But let's say that you don't have a bulb, or you just want to browse around. So we also have the flexibility of letting people look through the available bulbs. So we have categorized this in different areas from first fitting, so you select what type of fitting you need. Secondly, you talk about the shape of the bulb. And here are some options, and you can see what is available in the catalog. And then finally, again, the categories that you have to select from. And with this, you can then make, again, the selection of the product that you need. So finally, it comes down to the purchase convenience. Then you have an integrated experience from, identifying the broken, replacement of the broken bulb, all the way down to purchasing from the comfort of your home. And here you can select how many products you want, you can add more to cart, and then after 3 easy steps, it's shipped off to the comfort of your home. Now, again, if you are going to be searching in the app stores, it's currently available only in the US app stores. That's where we're starting the Light Finder journey. And so, if you're dialing it from the US, then you can feel free to do that. But right now, it's just the start of this fantastic journey. When we were preparing for this presentation and we were discussing, okay, what is something important to share to the audience? And I was discussing it with our CDO, and she was, just advising me, it's like, Carlos, share something that will actually, help, the community and of AI enthusiasts and leaders. And this is my next slide. So it's a summary of reflections that it's very important for us to take into consideration when going into this journey. The first reflection that I want to share is that you have to start with a clear problem definition. I think that's really the most fundamental thing. A lot of times we talk about let's do AI. In my view, AI is a means to an end. It's not the destination. So for us, the problem definition is how can we help our customers in this, journey of finding the right bulb. That was the problem definition. And then, AI was the right, let's say, candidate to help us solve that problem. But again, it's not only AI, we're also using augmented reality to enhance it and other, aspects. The second point is start small. Gain experience and develop your MLP. Now, you might be asking, what is this MLP? Well, it's what we call the minimum lovable product that will help you actually get that momentum started and that it already addresses that, problem that you want to solve. The third point is something that is very important for me, but I've heard it also from other people also presenting, is collaboration and teamwork. This is a very important thing because yes, of course, let's say the heart of LifeFinder was developed by our innovation team, but there were a lot of other contributions that, from IT, operations, marketing, branding, also our US market, legal. I mean, a lot of people contribute to this, and however small the contribution is, it's very important. Why? Because together you build the solution. So every contribution is extremely important. And also in these times of COVID, I think it's very important to also reflect, to have this inclusive mindset, because everyone plays a role. And so teamwork is extremely important. The fourth point is be data-driven. Also mentioned by other people presenting, data is your biggest ally in this, because with data, you can learn and improve, and you can shift from a gut feeling into a, more pinpointing the things that are going well or not with data, and you can steer appropriately, and you can become much faster with this. The fifth and last point that I want to share with you is that it's a continuous journey. We have just started on this journey of LifeFinder. Like other colleagues that are presenting today, you have started on a journey as well. So it's not just a destination; it's a continuous learning process that makes you better and better and better, and it also has some nice spin-offs as well that can help other use cases that you define. So with that, I wanted to share with you again, to recap, the problem that we wanted to address by helping customers find the right bulb. AI has helped us tremendously, because we have reduced the time of searching from a couple of minutes, perhaps hours, to seconds, and it has brought the convenience of trying to search elsewhere, or going out and getting into your car to a certain location, to the comfort of your home, and that provides convenience. So with that, I would like to close the presentation and thank you all for your time. Hopefully this has inspired you, triggered some ideas, and really looking forward to seeing what happens also on the AI innovation here team within the high-tech campus. Thank you so much. Back to you, Rem.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carlos, and so nice that you can share your insights here today. I have two final questions for you, if that's all right. First of all, it looks very, very, very good, and it looks very professional. I can't wait to see the app in the Dutch app stores as well. Now, it looks really polished at this point, but what were some of the biggest hurdles you faced in developing this app?
Well, I think that my biggest, or our personal biggest hurdle, is that we started with LifeFinder, the LifeFinder journey, and then I met, or together with the team, and we met once the teammates as a team, and then COVID started and lockdown came. And how do you proceed with on your journey when everything completely changes? So again, that's why I'm so passionate about the topic of really having collaboration and teamwork, because if you don't manage to get that right, it's going to be a very difficult way of really collaborating. So that for me has been, perhaps you would have expected a technical answer to that, but it's more in terms of how, from a human factor, how we can connect to build that solution together. And that has been, a very interesting learning for myself, but also for the team.
Even more incredible that you built it all remotely. Second and final question is, you mentioned that you have to think data-driven, and you need to harness the power of data. Which data points would you like to add?
Well, this is on the starting of a journey. I mean, we have a lot of ideas that we want to add. If I start thinking of data points, I would just go on and on and on. So I think that one of the interesting things that I can share in looking back, I think that's where we have the proof points. And my colleague Tim and also Chris probably logged in the call today. When we did the first version of this, one of the things that we found out is that there were a couple of errors, when getting, some of the initial images, and it's like, the AI engine is very accurate, but the images were not, we're showing some errors. And what, Tim analyzed was that he said, listen, the onboarding process, we need to improve. So a very simple solution. We have 3 swipe screens to onboard the customers much better before they start, using the application, from the first time. And this small solution, through a very data-driven way, really relieved, that, let's say, a problem that we identified. So this is the beauty of having a continuous process, having iterations, listening to the customers, and listening to your data. And like that, we aim to grow and mature this application more and more and more for our customers.
Carlos, sit tight because we'll see you at the roundtable in a bit.
All right.
Our last keynote of the day is the transformational global leader at the AI Innovation Center. He says AI and technology is just a piece of the puzzle of true digital transformation. The full potential comes from 3 main elements: technology, culture, and processes. He will explain how he and the AI Innovation Center will drive transformation over these 3 pillars. Ladies and gentlemen, Sebastiaan Laurijsse.
Thanks, Remy. Really appreciated your introduction. I'm honored to be amongst the industry male leaders of AI in this region. I'm also a little bit challenged by those because I've worked with many of those companies, ASML, NXP, and even personally in the past with Carlos. And I think it's a tremendous team and technology that's available, where NXP develops the capabilities that's being used by Philips, that's used by Signify in their smart lighting, and then of course manufactured in those crown jewels of the Netherlands at ASML. And then I'm here just presenting, and I would like to look just as intelligent as those other individuals, even if it's artificial. So to bring it together and really explain the challenge that we have had. Today we have seen many opportunities. We have seen how Philips will contribute in improving healthcare. We have seen how the light in our experience and convenience of living will be improved by those lighting and selecting the right light bulb. How artificial intelligence or machine learning and data can transform the finance industry, where no one can play fraud anymore. Compliance being managed by data. Major opportunities. Really, I think we're at the verge of a huge transformation globally. Not only for companies, personally, but also from a technical perspective. I like that. I'm really open to it, and I embrace that change. But I also believe there is quite a fear around AI. Is AI the job destroyer? That's a topic that's in there. It's quite known that AI will transform, will be healthcare. And I can tell you a scenario that I envision, and I would advise then my son to do or psychology or studying science. But imagine you get an email. You're being invited to join the hospital. You will join and you get a virtual assistant who guides you to the system being manufactured by Philips. You get your scan. And suddenly by email you get your verdict. Healthy, or maybe you are terminally ill. I have seen no one bringing it. How do you bring that message? How do you convey that message? How do you make sure you didn't lose human sight? So how important is to do it? More importantly, this is how we improve our lives as human beings. But also companies are having the similar impact. Would we really do still the finance department? Will it exist? Or will it be a scientific team of doing data science, machine learning, and giving even less budget because they have seen that you're trying to put more money and blown air into your budget to do investment that you think are right for the company? I never did it, but sure, you need to get things done. That's a huge fear that I think exists. There is a conflict. We have huge change, we have huge opportunities, and we have huge change ahead of us. How do you transform? How do you create that new future? How do you guide individuals to adopt that new technology? How do you make sure that what's being done today is done differently tomorrow? That's, I think, where the real challenge starts. AI is promising, data is promising, technology, cloud, virtual agents, everything is promising. But what's in it for me? How can I accept what's changing? Would my job exist tomorrow? Will what I do today, and I'm competent in it today, I've studied for 6 years to understand photos coming from a system, is being replaced by a single algorithm that advises you more accurate than that individual who studied for 6 years. I think there's a conflict, a huge conflict that we need to be aware of. And I think the AI Innovation Center can help you to deal with that conflict on those elements that have been presented by Paul in this morning. Events and education, partners and ecosystems and infrastructure, and even help you drive that adoption and transformation. And I really would like to look smart, so I put an algorithm, something on paper. But what I just want to envision with this picture, and it's demonstrating really the amount of change that's ahead of us. It's changing on the way how we are organized as a company, how we are organized as an industry, how we do marketing, how we do sales, but also how we do live today, how we use cars. And I think also in the presentation of NXP, they didn't talk about cars. Of course, there was a car on their slides, but they spoke about mobility. How things are being changed, how things are being transforming towards a new way of traveling. What is different between owning a car and mobility? It's really about the decisions are being taken autonomously without your influence. Of course, you as an individual. So we need to be able to deal with that rate of change. So how do we deal with it? We need to make sure that we understand the barriers. What's preventing us of accepting and dealing with those barriers? Is it about resistance? Is it about fear? Is it about the unknowns? What is preventing us to make sure that we can adopt the whole capabilities that comes available with the use of data? Is legislation that's being put today an issue? Is compliancy an issue? Or is just the human understanding preventing us of making that next step? And I think even Arnaud, in his presentation, where he really showed what ASML is doing to improve the yield of those systems, demonstrated that there is a huge complexity of removing those barriers. They cannot use data, and they need to make sure that they, of those customers that remains in their factories. We want to have access to other data systems, and I think Jörg demonstrated today that they created an environment of data sharing. And also I know that Kees from the Klauw has a working group around data sharing and data access, where they need to facilitate those changes. But we have a lot of changes that we need to facilitate. We need to remove a lot of those barriers. As such, we need to create momentum. Also, the AI Coalition said that they have now funding available to make sure that we can develop those assets, those capabilities, and those best practices who would remove those barriers. But we still need to deal with our own fear. For those who know it, it's fear factors. So if you join us and you will join the AI Coalition, the AI Innovation Forum, you will not be put in a bench full of spiders or you will be exposed to heights, etc. But we really would like to know what is playing into the field of the industry, the companies you are operating in, the development you're doing, and what needs to be taken away from an organizational perspective, from a human perspective, or from a market opportunity what plays around, what we really need to remove as an enabler. So looking into it, so what I want to share with you, that anxiety is nothing less than living again your fear in advance. That's a waste of time. You really need to focus on how can I embrace that change? How can I be part of the change? And I think the AI Innovation Center is really that what could help you remove that anxiety that you deal with. As a leader, transforming your organization, as a leader, developing the products and the solutions that you are bringing into the industry, I think that is very important. So this is not yet another change management seminar. I think there are a lot of other seminars that you could join, where we talk about change management, how to build your guiding coalition, how to create that vision. But what we want to say today, and what we want to share about the AI Innovation Forum, is that we are searching for a diverse set group of people. Of course, I made a joke that today we were only presenting about male leaders, but honestly to say, the area that we're operating in, we do see a lot of biases towards males. We are searching to a diverse group of individuals that really would help and join us in our circles that will enable those assets to transform and help companies adopt AI in their field of interest. That's critical to be the success. We don't want to create biased data that's only being generated by a single purpose group. We need to have the diversity to make sure that our data is being correct. And I don't need to repeat of those industry leaders that data accuracy is very critical. So also that bias needs to be removed. So, know all the theories, and I'm not an expert. Master all the techniques, but as you touch a human, and the technology and AI will do so, you need to factor in that you are just touching another human soul. And therefore, I really would like to reiterate the message as being conveyed by Paul. Please join us. Join the AI innovation circles. How can we, and which circles are relevant? Again, in the chat you'll find the link to subscribe, provide your input, and build upon, together with us, you have the opportunity to lead and be a member of those circles. As such, we can help the organizations in the Netherlands, but also in the region Brainport, successfully adopt AI as part of their practices. But having said that, thank you for your time. Back to you, Remy.
Yes, thank you so much, Sebastiaan. Amazing presentation. I thought it was very clever, very well designed. So thank you for sharing that with us today. And please join us as we go to our final segment of today's program, the round table or the round pit, as we can say. We have with us Arnaud. Very good, you're back. We have Jörg. Very good.
Technology field.
Great to hear, and Sebastiaan. And of course, we will see Gerardo in a little bit. And also Kees will be joining us once he finished his meeting. And on screen, I hope I can see him. Carlos, are you there? Hello,
Yes,
Carlos.
I am.
Oh, yeah. Great that you're here with us today. And also, Kees, thank you so much for joining us. In the next half an hour, we will discuss some topics, some questions from the audience. And I'm really curious about your vision and your insights. And I want to start with the small elephant in the room today, because we are, and you mentioned it already, we're here with some brightest minds, but it's all male minds. So what can we do so we can have more women and also, of course, people of color on stage next time? Paul, what are your ideas as the leader of today?
So yeah, let me start by making a call to, especially to women and also people of different cultures, because there are a lot of women working here. It should have been more, but we have a lot of women in this sector, and also people of color, and we really want to, especially them, also to get involved in this AI leadership forum, because what this forum is all about is also generating data for the AI Innovation Center, and then we need accurate data from people with different backgrounds.
Yeah, Kees, you have a lot of people working with the Dutch AI Coalition, many women, luckily. Yeah. How can we improve diversity in the field, you reckon?
This is something that we explicitly discuss also in the coalition. Diversity is important for AI, so if you don't have diverse leadership, you will have a problem. We also connect to networks. There is a network called Women in AI, which is international, very strong, bright minds, working together with those people, but also giving leadership roles to women. And when you start a coalition, of course, you start with a bunch of people that you have around, and then you start worrying about, hey, do I have the right diverse skill set? So it is a point of attention, but we have work to do. Yeah.
Even your colleague Inge Lu has a network called Female Tech Heroes, and she just launched a new partnership with the Euronymous Academy of Data Science, I believe, for women data scientists. So I really strongly believe we can have more women in the next episode of the AI Leadership.
Absolutely.
Maybe I can also make a comment that the leader for the data and AI strategy in Philips is actually a woman, my colleague Tina Manoharan. She couldn't be here today, so because we decided to focus on the cloud platform activities. But
we can lure her
we can ask her whether she can join for one of the next.
We'll make a plea, and we'll see her next time. I want to talk about the international arms race that's going on AI, because many countries around the world are investing heavily in AI and what it can do for the country, but also for the jobs. And I'm wondering where you see the Netherlands or even Europe in that field. Arnaud, maybe you can elaborate. France is also investing heavily in AI. Mm-hmm. So, can we compete as the Netherlands? And if so, how?
Well, I must say I always find it very strange that people look at how much money they put into AI as a kind of a token of this is how successful they're going to be. I think this has nothing to do with the money we throw in. Especially, as I said today, if you want to use AI today, I think it's one of the most affordable technology out there. Go to any cloud provider, just put a few $100 and off you go. I think it's more to really find the value that AI can deliver. And I think that money can help industries who struggle now with issues that they are reaching their own limitations or technologies they can't access, use that money to make them grow and build, I think, more unique value proposition per domain. Because I believe that AI, as a standalone product, has no value. It's the domain knowledge that you put in it that has value.
Kees,
I agree, but it's not just volume, it's also quality. The Netherlands, by the way, has a very good starting point in science. So internationally, scientists are recognized. We have lots of papers. But then it comes to, okay, can we get the data? And can we apply learning? So there is a volume effect. Yeah? If you want to improve your algorithm, not all. So I do recognize that you have to combine domain knowledge with AI algorithms, but there is also a part of learning. And making that machine work, having access to data and massive learning, that is a factor. And we have seen that those approaches have taken up very strongly by the big techs in the United States and by the China government. But I truly believe that there is an opportunity for Europe to come back even stronger by combining domain knowledge with AI algorithms. Yeah. And then make sure that you also control your data.
And the European just announced new legislation on artificial intelligence.
Yep.
Now, that can be a very good thing, of course. Yep. But maybe some companies think, oh wow, this gets very complicated. Let's wait a few years and see where AI is heading. That's a bad thing.
Yeah, I've worked all my life in an international environment. And I must say that the Asian culture is very much, okay, these are the rules, we adopt them, and we run like crazy to come up with solutions. Yeah? So we should not make the mistake in Europe that this legislation will protect us and will set the rules. The first ones to adopt it, yeah, might be foreign organizations. So it's a combination of being expeditious and start working with the new regulations, and then it can also become an export article, in my view. But it will not protect us. So we have to stay paranoia and work on applications.
Carlos, Signify is also a very international company. How do you see, or do you see any differences in the application of AI or the adoption in these different countries?
No, I think that, yes, we are a global company. The headquarters are here in the Netherlands, and I see a very big movement. Also, Nuno is also working quite a lot, on this as well. So maybe another topic for another day on things that he's doing. This is a global movement, and my view on this is that we should embrace it and not, fear it, because it's inevitable. It's just going to be continuing to develop itself. From a, let's say, European perspective, I think it's very good to have regulations, but let's not just, address AI with fear, because otherwise, we're going to be hampered by it, but see it more as a friend, or an ally that is going to help us advance in our society, in our companies, and also in topics around medicine. I think that perhaps the colleagues, from Philips know this better, but I think that with this COVID times, I think this is where we really can make use of topics around AI to help us not make little jumps, but take leaps in helping solve problems for our society.
Thank you. I want to know what you think in a second, Jörg. Kees, you want to elaborate?
I would like to add something, which is the learning approach. The Dutch government has really voted also in Europe for a learning approach. And learning is not only learning in technology, but also learning about how to apply regulations and frameworks, etc. So I'm very pleased. Yesterday I had an intensive call with some authorities. We have the authority telecom, authority financial markets. I think we have 14 authorities. And they're not always aligned. Yeah? So they have different interpretation, which drives the industry crazy. But we want to have them on board, and actually they will get on board more and more to collectively start learning on how to apply regulation.
Jörg?
Yeah, I can give a comment on also the activities in Europe in the cloud space in general. There was an initiative called, or there is an initiative called Gaia X, in which Philip is an active member and contributor. And the aim is to come to an ecosystem in Europe that builds a service catalog on top of basically any cloud platform. And then it doesn't matter whether it's a cloud platform from the US or it's a cloud platform from a European provider. And so we want to create that ecosystem for various application areas, not only in healthcare, but also in logistics and automotive, etc. And I think that is a very powerful concept where you give European companies the opportunity to find what they need, get access to a variety of services, and get also support in integrating these to come to their solutions.
Now, we got a question from the audience here. What team and expertise is necessary to run AI projects? And Gerardo, as you just joined us, I figured you're the one who can enlighten us.
Well, we need to distinguish a little bit what projects are meant.
Such a big scope, of course.
Yes, it's a huge scope. But first, let's say this is really a new area. It's about, let's say, data science. It's being very much connected to understanding the added value of your customers. Understanding the intrinsics of the product that you provide to, for example, prevent the demons that we have presented in the second presentation. So you need to add a skill in your company and a process in your company that basically connects the end user of your products all the way deep inside to your own differentiators of your own product.
Yeah.
So it's adding data science and the skills that are around that.
But you also really need to embrace the business case, right? So
yes,
not just a small team of data wizards somewhere in a corner office with the door locked.
that's correct. So on the one hand, you need to understand really the business of your customer. So what are their needs? And basically their application needs, and that needs to be brought into the solution that you provide. So it's a process of tying data scientists all the way together to the applicational benefits that you are striving for.
Arnaud, is it also maybe an AI demon? This, because people find it very hard to figure out where do we need to start, where do we need to start our first AI project. We need all these talented people we might not have. Is that also maybe a demon?
Yes, and I think, of course, you need people with the right skills and competence, but I think organizationally, typically AI being data-driven, there is intrinsically a lot more uncertainty in the development process, in the outcome, and then in the behavior once it's deployed. So if you resist it and you want to build your AI the same way you do regular software engineering, you will have issues because you never allow yourself for this learning curve. So it forces you to think differently and be truly agile and also accept that it's not working and understand why it is not working and have those small iterations. Also, as an organization, you need to learn to use AI. Otherwise, you can't be successful there.
Kees, this must be one of the questions you get asked a lot. Where do we find the right people?
Actually, sometimes they're under our nose, but we have to recognize them and keep them on board. So this is part of our program.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, how to make the Netherlands attractive for talents from abroad and avoid that talents and specialists, because we have lost some of the professors recently to Germany, to France. They had some attractive things. But let's say educating new people. And it's not always money. So you have to understand innovative people. Of course, you need to give them a fair pay, but they're motivated by an environment which stimulates innovation, etc. And that keeps them here. So also these initiatives here in the lab, establishing a lab at the high-tech campus, that has an impact.
I just wanted to say this is one of the objectives also for me to participate in this, that we want to attract talent to the campus. We have such an amazing set of companies here, and we should make that visible because I think it can be very inspiring for people to
talent attracts talent. So if you start, this is a common interest, and we can start competing between companies for the best talent, but collectively we have an interest because talent attracts talent.
Yeah, and maybe they got some of our professors, but we got some bright minds back as well. Yeah. So I think we got the better end of the deal. Paul, what's your vision for the AI Innovation Center to be a facilitator in attracting this talent?
Yeah, so definitely that was one of the main reasons that we started this initiative. So we have this image as a region and as a campus that we are this hardware-focused campus and region, and we found that this statement is basically not valid anymore. So what we foresee is that we are going to put ourselves really on the map, and that's also that's the common goal that we have with the 5 companies, that we have this goal that we have to put the region and the campus on the map in the field of AI to attract this talent. So that's definitely one of the main issues and or main objectives, and how we are going to do that by hosting this kind of events, making knowledge really accessible for everyone, pushing it into the world, show how what kind of cool use cases are going on here, as we've seen today, and that this region and this campus is a very good place for you as an AI specialist or a data scientist to build your career.
And Sebastiaan, for you as well, because you want to drive digital transformation within companies. This is a real cool showcase where you can inspire other companies to see what's possible, and also maybe go here and find these talented people.
I think I'm completely with Kees here. It's like we started it today. I think you kicked off with the human-centric AI, and I think that's also differentiated, by the way, if you focus from the European Union, where we are really human-centric. I think even more important, talent attracts talent in a purposeful environment. So if you are able to bring those purposeful use cases where I'm a millennial, so if you don't interest me for 3 months, I'm possibly searching somewhere else.
I thought 3 seconds.
Oh yeah, that's another movie, other YouTube channel. But I think that's where it really comes into it. Are we able to bring those industry partners together in this as a group of individuals and people and organizations where we provide those purposeful use cases? And for sure, if you look to our value streams and what we have set up, we're really looking into how can we attract those individuals to come together. As such, the talent remains here, and that we are able to exchange talent without hunting for talent, by providing them purposeful assignments and opportunities inside companies.
Jörg, this is a very interesting question for you, I think. Someone asked, what can you do with AI if someone else owns the data? And
yeah, that's a very good question. It's also sometimes referred to as confidential compute is a potential solution to this problem.
Confidential compute.
Confidential compute. That you basically isolate the data from the model. We also had in the pharma space a question from a pharma company. We have a model, another company has the data. How can we get the two together? And the idea is to set up this confidential compute environment, which is isolated from both parties, and so the data can be ingested, the algorithm can run on the data, and the results are given back without both parties having access to their respective assets. And that is a concept you can extend with federated learning. This is a concept where basically the algorithm travels towards different data, so to say, and while traveling from one hospital to the other, you could also isolate the data from the access in that way and still get the algorithm trained.
Yeah, so central algorithm can still learn from all these different data environments without the privacy concerns, basically.
Yeah. But there also you bump into regulation issues, like, for instance, in the case of ASML, our customers are mostly in Asia or the US.
Oh, yeah.
The data is there. And there you have much more than technological solutions required to just handle those data access issues. So, and this is also interesting, even if you invest massively in AI solutions here, you know you need the data that is elsewhere. So there you really need to think globally at the worldwide level to be able to get value out of it, and that's not an easy.
Yeah, it's probably
a new business also. Eh? So what you will see is that there will come new businesses, which is data brokerage. People that bring together the providers of data and the users of data. And then together with the distributed ledger technologies, blockchain, etc., you can really protect ownership for a certain purpose. I will see that coming.
It's getting very complex, so we'll put this on hold for another topic at a different AI leadership forum, maybe.
Yeah, although maybe there is an important point there, because data is really key. But there's another aspect that you can bring in as each individual company, which where you base your differentiation on. And that's what I indicated, kind of, if you have multi-objective learning, where you put the intelligence about the technology that you provide, or the intelligence about the product that you provide. If you combine that with the data and you do learning for that, the knowledge that you provide is intrinsic to you. So you use the common data, but you combine it with private knowledge that you only have about your technology that you supply to the market. Then you get optimized solutions for your product using common data.
Yeah.
And that can provide then differentiation to you. So data can become, in that sense, more open because the differentiation starts to shift to a slightly different level. You could also say it's the physical know-how that you combine, that you bring in as well, that you only have as a company yourself.
Arnaud, a special question for you from the audience. What's your favorite color? No, kidding. What was your hardest challenge to drive the transformation within ASML?
Well, I would even extend it to the whole industry. Because we work at nanometer precision, everything has to be extremely deterministic, and then you're throwing some sort of a probabilistic model. It works in most cases, and sometimes it doesn't, and you can't explain why. So that is a very, when you sit from that perspective, is not very appealing. So I think it's really an incremental process where you say, I'm not going to take over what we've been doing so far, because this has proven to be very successful, and I'm sure will remain successful. It's really what can you add on top of it with AI. So what areas can we explore that was very difficult to do before, but that with AI we can really start to leverage. And this is always searching for those small nuggets that if you pull them together, then you can have a big impact.
I've the next question for Carlos. Maybe it's very interesting. How do you find or identify valuable projects where AI can be a great tool to use? Because even within Signify, you can probably think of a million use cases where you can experiment with AI to enhance projects or processes. So how do you identify the one project that you start with?
Well, I briefly covered that, in my presentation, that one of the important things is that you have to start with the problem. What do you want to solve? Things that we have done in the past, for example, is that what I always recommend is you work for a particular company and align, your efforts to the strategy. Contribute to the strategy of your company. I think that's very important, because then you really have the backing of the colleagues, because you're working towards some particular goal. So start with that. I think that also is very important, that you again also covered in this point, is you can have wishful thinking, but the reality is that you need to have your data in place. So it's also important to have really razor sharp focus on the strategic alliance of what you're trying to achieve, but also have the practical aspects of this, that you have to have the data. So once you have these two elements, then you can start also looking around, okay, what are the problems that I can solve? And if you have these ingredients, then you can start defining what we call use cases. So it's important, again, to take these steps to be able to derive the use cases.
I see you nodding along, Sebastiaan.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Totally agree.
Yeah, of course, I was thinking like, is it always trying to solve a problem? That's one angle. I think that's the convenient angle to identify what's the opportunity, better, faster, cheaper, happier, more sustainable. The true innovation is that starting from a problem is not always. I think it's also scientific and finding by accidents correlations or causalities that you didn't know exist before. Mm-hmm. But it's quite the hard part of it. And I think that's also where the ecosystem of universities plays an important role. From industries like Philips and ASML and others, I think it's indeed coming from improving the yield, being challenged to improve margins or other services. I think that's where it starts, but I think there are two angles towards innovation.
Because it's an interesting theory. I think, and I'm wondering what you all think about this, is that we in the Netherlands and maybe in Europe are focused too much on investing in AI projects which immediately have to have some sort of return on investment. Where in America you see these companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon, even Salesforce investing in these experimental AI sandboxes. What do you think, Kees?
I see that risk. You could say Amazon started many years ago with a clear vision on let's get the data. And we don't know exactly what we're going to do with it, but collect the data. Actually, that was the logo of, or the slogan of Google as well. Yeah. Which is creating new business.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong in saying, okay, I have my business. What can I do with the data? Can I improve my business? But that's what I call linear innovation. And this is disruptive. And you have to have, in a company, you have to protect a certain environment where you do this disruptive information. And sometimes you have to do that outside the company because the people will slow you down. Yeah.
Even with a company like Microsoft, who invested $1 billion in OpenAI, a company that's known for its language model, but also solving a Rubik's Cube with a robot hand. Arnaud, what do you think about this? Can companies benefit from maybe some experiments which doesn't deliver any business tomorrow?
Yeah, and the good thing about ASML is that people will do it regardless of what people tell them to do. So I think this is also this startup mentality that is also helping us innovate tremendously. So I think definitely it happens. What I see happening as well is that there's still this, you have to protect your data because you know that if you don't protect it, people will find value in it that maybe you don't have found yourself. But at the same time, sometimes to really be able to innovate, you have to throw in your supplier because he knows sometimes the data better than you do because they are making the sensors that we are using. And the same goes for a customer. Sometimes they know better how to use your machine than yourself, right? So it's also about linking throughout the value chain and see how can we have those pockets of partnership where we can explore together. Maybe we'll have something, maybe we'll have nothing, but build those environments. I think this is very important, but also very difficult because then who owns the IP, who gets the revenue? This is always where it becomes tricky with big companies.
That's why consumer markets are interesting. I think in this environment we have most professional companies. And believe me, it's more difficult to get data open or transferred in a professional environment because everyone is sitting on it. And that's the cleverness of some of the consumer companies like Apple and Google. They've gained so much information by providing what I call the beats and mirrors of the 21st century. You get an app, and in return we take your personality. Yeah. and they learn. Also on healthcare applications, they learn faster and more than you would be able to do in the professional environment because people stick to their data, yeah? And that has to change. Yeah.
I'd also like to make one comment on the fundamental research question. I think it should also come with the right funding mechanisms. And the National AI Coalition or the AI Initiative in the Netherlands is a great example for this. So I think one company alone might not be able to afford very fundamental research. So we need to, of course, all of our companies are doing fundamental research, but to really move the needle, I think we need to team up and together with governmental funding as well as venture capital or investment funding, etc. And in that way, you can get the critical mass to really move the needle on fundamental topics.
We're almost at the end of today's program. I have a final question for all of you. Our vision. What's our vision for the nearby future of AI in the Netherlands? And what will it be in a couple of years? How will the ecosystem? What will the ecosystem look like? And Gerardo, I wanted to start with you. In a few sentences.
Yeah, let me first start with the automotive market. It goes at a somewhat slower pace because of how the automotive OEM industry works. But you see that AI algorithms take over the classical algorithms for the environment perception in a big way. You see that more functionality is developed to it, that you can, in that sense, you can trust more, but you are not totally sure. So there is really a difficult safety question there. But you see that AI gets into lots of parts in the automobile as an undeniable trend, I would say. And maybe there is a shell around it which safeguards the ultimate safety at the latest possible moment. But further, AI will take over a lot of what is now done more in a classical way.
We'll have some very smart cars in 2030, maybe even built locally.
Yes, that's another aspect. They are not per se autonomous, but they can have much better safety systems to anticipate much better what is happening on the road to prevent accidents. That's a big trend.
Carlos, your vision for 2030 in a few sentences? He's on mute. It's like the traditional Zoom bingo. Can you hear me?
I'm on mute, sorry about that. It's a bit of an interesting question. I think that we're just starting with this AI journey, and we're going to be accelerating tremendously. I was already kind of also thinking about, answering this question, and I'm actually reading a book by Yuval Noah Harari, which is Homo Deus. So here he goes much beyond, 10 years or 9 years from now. But I would, definitely recommend to be triggered by this book because it provides a glimpse to the future and how it could potentially be. And it's a thought-provoking book. So this is, one of the things that is also kind of inspiring me right now and triggering me to think beyond, how AI could look like. So it's going to be tremendous. It's going to have a tremendous impact on society. For us as a company, we're going to make, enormous advancements through this, optimizations as well. So it's just a very, very interesting period to be working on.
Thank you so much. And another very interesting read is Life 3.0 by Mark Techmark as well, who really visions a future with AI. So if you like Yuval Harari, you'll definitely like Techmark. Kees.
First, embrace and enjoy uncertainty. I think that's the theme for the next few years. I hope this human centricity will also lead to more fundamental thinking about how we as humans come to our conclusions. Because we think that we understand everything with physical models, but the physical model is something that we develop in our mind. And I would recommend people to read a book which is already 11 years old, that is Thinking Fast and Slow.
Oh, Daniel Kahneman.
Yeah. That tells you something about our minds, which we are going to reflect in many of the AI systems. But I think it will be fun the next 10 years. So.
No.
I agree with what has been said before, so I won't repeat it. One thing that I think we will have to grow concerned about is the waste generated by AI. And by this, I mean the computing power we're wasting, the data centers we're building. So it's great because we sell chips, so great business for ASML. At the same time, you see...
Bright future ahead.
No, but indeed, but what you see is that people actually, they don't realize how much power they're consuming when in a training model or for Bitcoin mining. I mean, the amount of resources you need there is completely insane compared to what you get out of it. So if you don't grow some conscious of what the impact is of the compute we're doing on the environment, I know all cloud providers are going to go green, and it's a great thing, but still, at some point, there's a limit we should try to not reach to prevent having another car industry bubble where we have so much pollution created by AI that it's not worth the investment.
Yeah, the power needed to learn this machine to solve the Rubik's Cube was about the same power as a typical nuclear power plant puts out in 6 hours. So yes. it's a lot. Jörg.
Yeah, I would also like to say that as Philips, we have a very people-centric approach to healthcare. So we believe that AI should serve the patients and it should serve the medical staff. My guess is that AI will also free up time, hopefully, for doctors and staff to really spend with the patient. And some take away some mundane tasks that they still have to do today. So that would be my wish for the future.
Paul.
So when I look to 2030, there's a lot going to change in technologies, and that's also why we started this whole initiative, and that's how we also why we should reconsider how we use this campus as a place for innovation. And that's also why we're already setting up this kind of environment where you can actually keep the human-centric approach, and that you can enable people to come together and create new things. Because in this time where technology is becoming more and more part of our lives, especially with the rise of AI, we need to keep in mind that we keep a human-centric approach. So that's really a new approach that I see for us as a campus and also in this AI Innovation Center. And that's also why we try to put the people that are going to use this technology in the center of what we are doing with this leadership forum. So yeah, I see also the increasing importance of human centricity. And please allow me, Remy, to speak a few words on a word of thanks to the people who are involved in the setup of this.
Definitely.
Talking about people and companies today. We have run this project for almost a year, I think, and these guys, I don't have any knowledge about AI, just a very basic level of knowledge, but we have these amazing people here from these companies that we saw speaking today, and also Nuno and Brian who are not speaking, and they've really helped us set up this whole concept and this center and build this leadership forum. And I would like to use this moment to say a special word of thanks to them for their commitment to this initiative.
And normally, in a physical environment, we would have an audience who was applauding. So let's just imagine everyone behind the laptops giving us a big round from the comfort of their living room. That's a great initiative, and maybe we should join back here in 8 years' time and look back and see how wrong we were.
Could be fun.
That could be fun. Yeah, the final remarks are for you, Sebastiaan.
Again, the honor on being last here. Of course, just then also to go out epically is that, of course, I can dream about how the future would look like or build the illusions that we have been spoken about today. I think we have huge enablers still to fix, and I think one of them is revise the concept of privacy and data sharing and data brokerage. And I still believe as a liberal where you take care of the individuals, the human-centric part, I think Europe is being suited as the future AI capital. However, I think before we are able to reach that endpoint where AI is augmenting our lives and being very supportive in the use cases, we still have some fundamental concepts of human beings, but also technology and legislation to fix. So before that's done, I'm not making any prediction on 2030 because I know that legislation and law and other elements that Kees is working upon will take some time, and even I think more than a year. So the challenge is firm, but also the opportunity is big.
Yeah, I'm very curious what the AI Innovation Center will become. So we'll follow you closely. Then it's time to wrap up today's program. I hope you enjoyed the talks and got some hands-on information about starting and scaling with artificial intelligence. The organization will send you a follow-up email with a survey and a link to the show to share with your colleagues. And if you want to get involved with the community here at the AI Innovation Center to learn from bright minds like all of these people here today, please sign up. We highly encourage you to do that, to join the circles. And the link to the sign-up page will also be included in the mailing. Don't forget to subscribe to our social channels, such as YouTube, so you don't miss any insightful content. For now, thank you so much for your time today and hope to see you soon. Thanks.
Bye-bye.